Falava, thank you for joining me today. First, we ask our Heavenly Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit to bless this show with divine wisdom. This is a talk show where we celebrate, debate, question, interview topics that are happening around the whole of the Moana Pacific. Today, we are joined again by Professor Dr. Fa'ala Wood Sailele, a Samoan economist, academic, and former MP who's a leading voice on education, economic development, and national growth in Samoa. It's a pleasure to have you on again, Professor Sailele. Welcome.
Yeah, Tarafa, Mike. It has always been a pleasure to come on, your show, your talk podcast, so that we can be able to share, what has been happening around Samoa currently, and also, what happened yesterday, and also we look into the future. So on that, and we can also try to relate to, what is happening around the world. Yeah, and before we go on to our normal exchanges of ideas and thoughts, I would like to welcome everybody who have been regular listeners to our podcast. Talo fala, malo. Okay, so there we go, Mike.
Thank you, Professor. Just looking back, I think the Independence Day has just passed, and kind of like the aftermath of the Independence Party in Samoa and also around the world. We celebrated it as well. What's the feedback, and how's the country been in the last week? How's everything? How's the students, Professor?
Yeah, well, finally the nose has been cooled down from the independence, and it's still some components of the government sector is still busy at the moment, especially with the government now going out to publicize and tell the public about their budget and also what they have in storage for development issues. But thus far, most schools now, from the primary level up to secondary, including university, have now at least complete the exams for this portion of their academic year. University of the South Pacific will start, I think, this week. So, for NUS, we have finished all the exams on Thursday. And for me, the courses that I teach, it's advanced micro and also environmental economics. The exams were completed on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I had been very busy in marking those scripts. So I'm taking this time off for our program. But this is the most boring part of teaching is marking.
Maybe this is where AI comes into play, Professor.
Yeah, but it's it's fun, especially because the nature of the questions that I give. It's a mixture of calculations and mostly economic intuitions. So making sure that they understand. I teach them the theory, the theoretical background, and their application. But I want them to make sure that they know. So through the exam, you will know. And this has been it's good that we talk about it. This has been a traditional way of academic learning. We have the coursework assessment, and then of course the other component, which is wrapped up with final exams. But if you look around different educational systems and the rankings that we have, there has been a debate about the wisdom behind having final exams. You know what I mean. But it's good, because I mean, in most cases, if you really want to find out whether your students know, have a good grasp of the material, then there are courses which are fully examined by assessment, and I've had some courses, on that teaching method, and I know the difference. I know, but when you assess them, when you give them the full assessment using the course assessment, there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of it. And since we now have the challenge of the AI, the QCP chatbot, so and I've always encouraged my students to access the program. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as you don't plagiarize what you don't just give us what the AI gives you, because we know, and we also have programs that we can be able to monitor. Whether the written work is is from a student.
Sorry, we just lost Professor there. Should still loading now.
AI
There he goes.
work.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, but then on the other hand, we have the final exam, and traditionally speaking, you find that there is a huge difference between the two. Some do very well in the coursework assessment, and when it comes to the final exam, they don't perform as well as expected. So there is a debate whether we can still go with this traditional method of educating our future generations, or purely go on by just assessments and others. But then, of course, that would depend on the educators and the systems that they do. And I think Australia, since Samoa, we follow very much the Australian system, and also New Zealand and UK, Commonwealth, and I think that reflects well on the American system as well, in European. So yeah, sorry to get to general, but it's interesting, and it's also good that we mention this, and for our listeners, and that's why here in Samoa, the parents are very picky about the colleges or high schools that they send their children to, and which is good, for me. I'm happy that the parents are now finally given that responsibility to choose which college, whether it's private or public, that would fit the level of education and the expectation that your children and of course the future of Samoa. Yeah, so that's where we are.
Professor, I just wanted to ask, you're talking about school, and I remember going to school, and I wish I had the brains and the focus to sit in class and understand everything what the teacher's talking about. One thing that I've struggled with was fitting in, especially in Australia. I'm not sure how it is in Samoa. I'm sure it's not much of an issue, but just your experience, because you've traveled around the world, like Canada and Australia, to do your university. Um, did you ever suffer from the, the what do you call it? It's like the stereotype of, I'm a Samoan, the pressures of being not good enough, or, the Balangis are better than us, or, because I suffer with that type of, focus in class. And, sometimes I think, if we sat there I'm more of a hands-on person. If someone was there to kind of give more of a, I'm not sure, proactive, when you talk about PE, when you talk about sports, I love practical, we're more of a practical kind of learning base, and I'll get the best out of that. But, our learning format at the moment is very in classrooms and, talking. But just your experience, Professor, did you ever struggle with that kind of pressure, being around the world, as a Samoan?
Yeah. um, I mean, from the grassroots where I come from, English was part of the learning process that we had. So right from year one, we had to learn, the alphabet, English alphabet, ABC, all the way up with someone, and it's an experience that we had that is different from the first, second, or third generations of someone, living in New Zealand, Australia, and other places too. But um, having said that, it was a big challenge for us. In my case, growing up in the family of my parents were Methodist ministers. So, in a way, we have been very fortunate because of that environment. But then, on the same level of expectation, I had to, be competitive with other students as well. So, my challenge was how to have a solid command on English, because even though that someone was taught together, but English was a major barrier. But to break that barrier, you really have to get into it. And so when I reached, college level, from year 9 up to the final year of this is my experience, because I'm a graduate of Wesley College here in Samoa. It used to be called Leva Ula. And I really had to struggle over. But all of my English teachers at the time were, were what we call VSA. They were volunteers through the New Zealand and all of Australia, and even some from UK, in the United States. But they were very strong Christians too. And I think in that environment, I tried to immerse myself into trying to learn and write properly in English. So and I took up the habit from my mentors, those experts from the Peace Corps, the Molly, and some volunteers from Australia and New Zealand. The love for reading, so that was the key for me to break away. So, and I just read, the books, even, most of Shakespeare's plays. It was something that I had that special thirst for. And I think, and I know that broke the ice for me. When other courses, when other subjects in science and even in maths, it's, the pathway is there because because it's all in English, And then went up to um, some part of my undergraduate, which is a pre-medicine degree in the United States. This is Brigham Young University. I did not complete. I had to return home because for some family. And then after that, went back to USP for Bachelor of Science, and then to the University of New England, Australia, for Master of Economics, and finally Doctor of Philosophy in Economics through Commonwealth in Canada. So, that global experience that I had, if it wasn't for that solid foundation that I got from here in Samoa, I would not have survived. You know,
Mm.
and this is my own personal um, experience, and I always encourage my students. Where I was teaching at Samoa College and Wesley and other schools locally, and then later on the university, both USP and NUS. I always encourage them to, just don't worry about the noise outside. Just stay focused. Education is for everybody, and this is the most recognized pathway that can take you out of poverty, and it breaks all the barriers. A lot of my friends in Australia and also in Canada, we did studies together. We share the same experience. I'm from China too, University of Beijing, and we just sat down and we discussed. And even if you have a lot of money, if let's say you are from a rich, because a lot of my friends came from very rich families in Canada and even in Australia, but you can still see that that if they don't get the education, something is not just right for them, because that's the way forward. And that was the experience that I had, and I tried to share that. I imparted that with my children and also my students. Because hey, look, you gotta work hard for this. And make sure you make use of all the avenues. A lot of other Samoans who did very well in academic, I'm sure they share the same experience with me too. And the challenge that us who have gone through all the way is that when it comes to your children, when they try to emulate your footsteps, because I remember my wife, she asked our children, what would they want to be. Was when we were in Canada, trying to finish up my PhD. And you know what? They all said that we would all like to be that. They all wanted to, to follow. And I said to them, look, you be careful with what you ask for, because this is not. But at least that was a kind of the pathway, which I laid down when I was really, really, putting myself into the study, because I know sooner or later where I would choose to work would come back to help. So I had to return, and thank God that all of my children are now complete their graduate studies. Some are working on, and I said, well, look, the sky is the limit. And they believe me now, because more and more opportunities are opening up for them internationally and locally. And my students, those who came through me, quite a bit of them have become prominent business people in the community, and also they have become assistant CEO and CEO here in Samoa. And that's, so for me, it's very rewarding when you look at them because they are the future. I said to them, look, sooner or later, we're going to pass the baton to you guys. And we make sure, that the dream will not die. And so going through that, as you asked me in the beginning, it's because of that upbringing that we grew up very, very challenged. When when my father was a pastor and minister at Philadelphia, this is one of the on the other side, where the Piula Theological College. And I had to. This is the 70s. I had to wake up early, 4 o'clock in the morning to catch the bus. And then from there to the other side where Wesley College now Levoga. Boy, man, this is it's a huge undertaking. So you pray, but it's part of the sacrifice. It's not just me. This is an experience from. I also discussed with some of my other colleagues who have managed to be successful in their own rights too. But God will always open up doors, and this is my experience, regardless of whatever. If you keep the faith, you somewhere. So not everybody will become academics, and not everybody. Some would take up trades and become very wealthy and very successful, even in different areas. But if you stay true to what you are, you're striving to get, you definitely get it. And I think that's a measure. That's the test. That's a human being. God has given us, and we have the willpower. But if you don't want, there are other pathways that you can become. But different pathways may uphold different expectations for different people as well. So yeah, but that's my quick look into into that. So English has become a barrier. But now it's different now because a lot of students now in Samoa, they speak English quite, fairly well. Except it's a challenge for other students who came from Savai'i and other parts where English is not spoken often. And we know that because when they come to NUS, we look into how they fare up with that level of English because it's very important. You cannot pass, you cannot get your degree if you don't write in good English and speak in good English. So, and English, yes, it's a commercial language. It's all over the world. Even in Samoa, it's a business language. English is business language, although Samoan is regarded as the national language.
You mentioned there, Professor, your kids looking up to you and wanting to be like you, which is good to see that, a lot of families are like that. And just my experience with school, I went to a private school and it was a Palangi, all Palangi, country Palangis. And one thing I noticed about this private school was it had a lot of tradition, a lot of custom, kind of like an aura of, you got to remember the elders or the ones before us, and it carries on around with a lot of successful teams, a lot of companies. They have the sense of duty that when you're in this role, you should understand how important it is for us to understand where you are at the moment. And I saw a video earlier in the week and it said one of the players from Tonga, Ben Tui Mifani, Tui Mafuna, the big unit he's playing in France at the moment. And he said when he was in the All Blacks camp, he had a few caps or one cap. And he went there and he saw Richie McCaw. and they got the boots and stuff like that from Adidas. Free boots, free shirts and stuff like that, and it was exciting for him. His name is um, Ben Tamifuna, and he said when he went there, and Richie McCaw, the number seven, the famous number seven for All Blacks, he said when he got shoes, they gave him a black and a white shoes, and he said he remembers clearly when he came on his first day of training. He came and he put on his white shoes and coming down the steps and looking at Richie McCaw, and he saw Richie McCaw. And Richie McCaw said to him, "Hey mate, just remember, you're All Blacks now. You play in your black boots." I think and so he suggested to him to go and put on his black boots, and it's that kind of aura, like Richie McCaw. It's just kind of like respecting the people before you, and I really hold that close to me, and my experience at this private school, and this aura goes on like when we play rugby. We go hard at it, and the schools go crazy on the sidelines. But then at the end of the day, we go and get changed in change rooms, and then we come back and we have a kongai or a little feed with the other team, and then we give our presentations, and it's like this type of like Harry Potter kind of thing. It's just like different types of these schools come together, and it's got such a nice cultural kind of, not cultural, it's like a system that works, it's a system of honor and respect. And I come back to what you're saying, want our kids to kind of, want to be like you, and also to be better. And I think this is where in our school and when we played rugby, we had the honor, but then we wanted to be better than what our people before us. And I really wish that was done here in Samoa. I'm not sure, Professor. We talk about politics. The people before us, but it seems like we're slowly moving away from this this kind of respect and honor, and moving towards this. I'm not sure what do you call it. It's just a out the back kind of mentality of like whatever goes. But yeah. Just to add on to what you were just saying there, Professor. But moving on.
I think the point that you're trying to make, it's very important to place your children on the right, at the right environment. Meaning that the schools that you would choose. And I think that has a huge impact on the education. When we were in Australia at University of New England, this is Amede. We lived there for more than 2 years for my master's, and my children went to primary school there. And it was good. Some of them went to Catholic, primary school, and others went to a public, and they are really good. Schools are really good, and even when we went up to Canada as well, So that's the pathway. But then on the other hand, we need to make sure that whatever achievement that you have in life, whatever, you have to make sure that others are also blessed with the blessing that you receive. You make sure that others are also blessed with that blessing. So, and we have come a long way. Yeah. Schools here in Samoa are good. It's just that those who have much stronger command in English tend to be doing much better. But other than that, the level of playing field is.
Yeah, English. You're right. English. You know what? This is what I think I struggled a lot. I didn't struggle a lot in school. I'm a thinker. I think a lot, but I struggled when it came to when you say English. I did struggle in primary school because our language at home with my grandparents, was just all Samoan, and so we struggled a lot, and the teachers started to say that, in primary school, early years, and said, look, the kids, they struggle to understand, or we don't understand what they're saying, or, and so this is where the decision my dad and my mom said, no more Samoan at home now, and let's turn to English. So I think that's where, when you say the foundation of English, the people who do really well, especially in Samoa, are the ones that are very good in English. Professor,
And that's a fact, that's a fact. But it shouldn't be viewed as a barrier to the full potential of a kid, because parents would go to different schools to make sure that their children would receive the very best. But so for my experience, because of that English command background that I had, that really paved a different way for me. And also you kind of earmarked for something different. If I didn't have that, honestly, I would not have been around like this.
Yeah.
And I can also attest to that when my children, when we came back, they are really good English speakers, and they write, and they have an advantage over their colleagues, And so the story goes on. So, often I joke with some of my students, at university here. I said to them, look, I read your assessment, your assignments and everything. There's still plenty of work to do to improve the grammar, And I challenged them. I said to them, if you feel that English is still, a challenge to you, and you are new, if you look for a girlfriend or a boyfriend who speaks good and writes good English, you just laugh, But that was, I was trying to motivate them, because when it comes to marking assignments, you really have to make sure that they write well and they speak well, because when they leave the university, and often when they go to the private or public sector, they expect that the graduates that come out of National University of Samoa caught that. But sometimes I heard, some very disappointing comments from some, people saying that, oh, the graduates are not as, and I said, look, come on, man, you're not doing the work. I think you're just biased towards that, but they just laugh. And it's something very important, and it's like Australia. One of my, when I was in the United States doing my undergraduate studies in Bachelor of Pre-Medicine, wanting to get into medical school. And this was done at BYU. And I had a friend who came from Korea. His English was so bad, I had to help him. But he wanted to become a doctor. And I said, how can you pass the medical exam? This is a medical examination, but your English is so but see, through sheer determination, you know what he did? No, this is the truth. He learned the dictionary, the English dictionary. And I didn't know this, because what he did, he learned from A, all the words, and then B, and then C. So when we got together one time, I was trying to help him with his essays, and he said to me, I learned. And then I look at the dictionary, and then he, A, all the words. B, when it came to B, there is a way, you can look this up, it's the word by this, the name Pygmalion, Pygmalion. And Pygmalion, for me too, because this is history. I didn't know about this until my friend, because he learned the dictionary, he memorized it. This is from Korea. And then it came to Pygmalion, and I thought, my goodness, but Pygmalion, is a great sculptor, that he copied, he carved the sculpture of a uh, woman, and the work that he did was so amazing, was so beautiful, the statue of this woman. And he fell in love with the statue. You know, the woman was so beautifully carved. And that's if you look this up, and for those who are listening. So, I mean, the point is, my friend who knew nothing about English had to memorize, the English words. And so unfortunately, I left but he went on and finished his medical exam, and he's a doctor now. So my first my eldest granddaughter, she is now living. She's going to China. She just completed her foundation program last year, and so she won a Chinese award scholarship, and she will be living in July, August to study 4 years of environmental engineering. And I said, boy, you have to learn the Chinese. So she has been taking those Chinese classes at the National University. I said, how is it? So, and I said, well, I didn't have that chance to learn Chinese, but China is the second biggest economy in the world. More and more people are now wanting to learn, like the Japanese and even French and other stuff. So that kind of, barrier that we need to break. But English will always be there, and it's a gateway that we can open for, the sky's the limit, for all the opportunities. And I try to share that because it's an interesting experience. There's a lot of our students who go out of their way, they just break down along the barrier and don't want to break through. But there are different needs. I alluded to that case of my Korean friends. I was shocked, But he ended up, he got his degree, and he went to medical school. But that's how he did it. He learned the dictionary.
Yeah, that's a nice story, Professor. And then also to your granddaughter, that's what a way to go to China. What a experience, and what an asset to know the Chinese language. Big opportunities there in China. Not only just whatever she's studying, just the amount of business opportunities that you can have, the connections. In China, man, it just doesn't stop compared to our little island of Samoa. Professor, moving on to I just wanted to get onto the main subject, which is everyone's talking about, the government spending.
Yeah.
The government has spent more than it has collected. So it's reporting that it's $34.9 million over or deficit, Professor. This is not a good thing for just after we had our Independence Day of Samoa. I just wanted to get your comments because on the Sunday that had just passed, that I was talking to the Honourable Dr. Tulepa, and he had mentioned that this back in HRPP's time, their budget for the Independence Day was $250,000 to $300,000. Now I wanted to get into this before we move on to the other part, but $5 million, Professor, is this a little bit of an overkill when it comes to this? Or because a lot of comments have been coming back to the videos, a lot of people understand, and the quiet majority, they like and they move on and they agree. But there's a lot of vocal, bullies or people from the fast that I'm mentioning, just saying, this is for the Samoan people, our forefathers and our great-grandfathers and all this blah, 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 saying they deserve it and we deserve this. And I'm thinking, I think these guys have missed the point. $5 million is 16 times more than $300,000. Professor, what's your opinion about this? Is this a good thing, or is this the people online right?
Well, I think we did touch briefly on this last week, but look, when the statistics just came out, it paints a very it's not a good picture to look into the future as we move forward with the new budget. According to the stats, the third quarter, which ends in March, that's the third quarter. The first quarter is from July, August, September, and then the second one, which is November, December and January. So the third one is May. We are now on the fourth quarter, but according to the third quarter report, there is a deficit of the expected revenue to be collected of about 34.9, let's say roughly, about 35 million. That's a lot of, that's a huge deficit. So that is being carried forward to the current quarter that we are now on. And I'm even surprised, with the budget that just came out of $5 million for all the expenditure. And yet, probably the government was expecting that the revenue to exceed, or even at least close, very deficit. As usual, because sometimes quarters cannot achieve their quotation, now. But this 35 million, that's huge. And then that brings us the question, because I see on the social media, a lot of people are saying this and that about, both the negatives, both the pros and cons. But no wonder why the Fund 5 I asked for an overdraft. You see, because there was no fund. There was no the cash flow. There was no money for the cash flow. Like for any business, you gotta have a cash flow to make sure. And if you don't have that, then you can ask for an overdraft. And we know what an overdraft is. It's just simple economics and business. It's just a loan, but the interest would be quite high. At least those are the financial facilities which are available to make sure that your business will continue, with the expectation that you will have to pay that back at some certain arranged time. And so that's not, for me, there's nothing wrong when government seeks overdraft. But I was wondering at the time why did they ask for the overdraft, and then eventually when the report came out from the C6 that 13, about 35 million, I said, oh my gosh, this is what. And I feel for the Prime Minister and his cabinet. I feel for them. Given that they have already laid down their proposed expenditure of about 5 million, and then all of a sudden the deficit was quite significant. It's difficult to go back and reverse the promises that you.
Wow.
So it went like that. But look, running the government is a business. This is simple economic terms. Some people say, "Oh, the government's not a business." Hey, no, it is a business. It is a business. Because you are there, you're looking after the wealth of the country. Both when you look at the macroeconomic model, the overall, which is gross domestic product, this is comprised of the consumption, the total consumption, plus the total investment, plus the total savings, and then we have exports and others. So, and if you're putting that as a prime minister and in the minister, you run it as a business. And what we mean by that, when we talk about business, you have to look at debit value in and credit value out. This is a simple, financial accounting terms. You make sure that you play on that, and I think if today Dr. Sailele, if Dr. Sailele says that, then he has been doing that because he is a qualified accountant and also economist. And then therefore, now we're facing with this dilemma now, and I can only hope that this will not be, the deficit will not be extended as we see going forward now with the challenge of, the control over the expenditure of petrol, how to try to conserve and others, because it does have the overall consumption. So looking from that 5 million tala, it was purely an expenditure function. It's part of that. And it is hoped that it will somehow drive some initiatives to circulate the money supply. But if you look deeply into it, it will only, that $5 million that went into all the activities, all the entertainment activities, it's just a dead money. It does not stimulate the growth through some development projects that, because 5 million, that's a lot of money. But you're just using it on entertainments. And those entertainments will actually come back. The money that they use will go back into the consumption of goods and services, which is completely different, So, if Dr. Sailele says that, if Sailele says that, then he's right. He's right. If they were spending 300 or even 400, or maybe 500,000, they're strictly walking along the fine lines of debit value in, credit value out. And then therefore, because that the revenue is being collected, and if you don't get that amount, then that's the challenge that we face.
Yeah.
But I pray and hope that the stats would probably send a clear warning to the Prime Minister and his cabinet. 12 months is a long way. 12 months is a long way. And I think they need to be very careful about the expenditure, how to expend the resources, so that we can be able to allow the economy to cope. Because projections under the current budget, they are very ambitious. Very ambitious. But the question is, can we achieve that, given the current situation? So, but
it's a big story happening at the moment, Professor. And I had another question here. Does this explain the compensation delays? Because a lot of money, like the $10 million to Safata, the people out power outages. They're still waiting for even the one government grant, the $18 million for the schools. They're still waiting for their grants, but the excuse came up was it's under audit. So that's obviously a lie. When he says it's under audit, unless it's sitting there on the side there, got nothing to do with the 35 million. Professor, is this explains that in simple terms, why there's no money coming to these projects and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, see, when you oversee the budget, you have to be very prudent with the way you oversee. Often it comes with experience. I know the Prime Minister has some very, very good people there in his team, some very good ministers. But they just have to give the Prime Minister a genuine advice of where we're going. Otherwise, there's a saying. I often joke with some of my friends that they say, "Look, they say that that can't be done." I said, "Why not?" But they say, "How can when there is no can?" So the old man joke about that. How can when there is no can? And that is exactly what is happening. There is no can.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
this is where prudent management of the economy comes in. And I tip my hat to the old man, to that. Not say that, all these years, he had struggled to make sure, but he did an excellent job, in overseeing them. And now we're seeing,
And
and I hope they will. One thing that we have to make sure, whether you are a FAST supporter or a HRPP supporter, it's our government. The Lauli and Manitoba's government it's our government. So whatever happens, we feel the pain as well, and the least that we could do is to give him an honest advice, because if the ship sinks, we will all drown.
yeah.
Interestingly about huge deficit. Let's see what's the next. The last quarter comes, and when it comes out, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't release the figures.
To go deeper into the story, Professor, I don't know if this is a true stat, but I know some observer, they said it was from the government grants. So obviously they're saying not enough collected by the taxes, or if the business people are paying their taxes. Is that the cause for the shortage of money coming into the government? But they also mentioned a stat that says, so the $43.3 million, which come in through grants, has gone down to 12.4 million. I was a little bit shocked when I saw this number. I was thinking 43.3 to 12.4 million. Like that's a significant drop down, and to kind of add on to this area here, I come back to the education side, and again, people think, oh, I'm trying to knock the Prime Minister of Samoa, I'm being a local leanga, but hey, someone needs to say it, because no one's talking about it. The facts is, the grants comes back down to the leadership of the country. Or if it's not the leadership, the people that are in the cabinet or in the government to kind of do the job. As you said, there are people in the government that have the smarts, have the knowledge to be able to pull things off. Professor, it really comes back to the Prime Minister. What do you think on this when it comes to the diplomacy of Samoa to other networks and other countries to getting more grants? Does it come back down to that knowledge of diplomacy, Professor?
Well, see, there's nothing wrong with asking for assistance. There's nothing wrong with that, because we have our development partners, and also we have the World Bank, the IMF, and the Asian Development Bank, and others. EU as well, even China and Japan. We can ask, but it comes back to my point of prudent management of the economy. When you have so many promises, which sometimes are not in the budget, sometimes you can just allude to it. You have to be very careful, because they will come back to bite you in the future. But overall, you have to look at the what is being collected, the revenue, that the actual one, and that is for any business, it's the cash flow. And when you have that sufficient cash flow to pay for your expenses, to pay your employees, that allows the business to function. That's basically, it's very simple economics. But when you kind of look beyond that and then expect the unexpected it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. See, all these years we were categorized as a least developing country. LDC, and then under Tullieppa's tutelage, the leadership of the country, they worked so hard to make sure that we graduated, and it did. This is middle of, I think, 2000. And so when we left that status, and now we are in the middle level income, the developing. It's important that we understand this, because most of I would say all of the benefits that were accrued to Samoa under the LDC status were gone. Once we graduated, that means we are now able to apply for some financial assistance, and then be able to pay that back, because we cannot go on depending on this. And then the trend continues on until we changed the government from Fiande and then now to Naomi, and the financial status was still intact. It's still intact at the moment, and I think that's one thing people need to understand, because what was left from Tullieppa's leadership was more than enough to carry forward through the fast. But seeing what has been happening, really, the fast or the quick, if I would use some of the terms used in the finance and economics, the fast depletion of those funds, it makes us worry. It makes us worry because you have to make sure that there is a replenishment of those funds. And how can we get there? Well, of course, we have our developing partners, through they can give us assistance, but then we have to depend on ourselves. We have to really look into development projects, and that's why the Fund of Avaya was set up. The initiative from the beginning, the idea was good. But I myself, because this was an initiative from but I did not. I knew if this is not going to be managed properly, it's going to be like this. So since it's still in its early inception stage, and we can only hope that as we move forward, you test these models, you look at the negative relationship of the variables. And that is not good, for the future. But anyway, it's good for our audience to understand this, and that's why we have to be more cautious with the project. It's a good project, I believe in that, but it has to be done properly. A lot of education has to go into the selection of those who are in charge, because it's a lot of money involved, and then we expect the return, the positive return. We expect a net present value from these projects. But if it continues the way it is, that's not going to be the case. And then once it ends up on the consumption side and has no return, we know what is expected in the future, and that will affect the overall gross domestic product, which is eventually lead to bankruptcy. And I am not, Mike, I am not a prophet, but this, it has happened to other countries using those economic models to understand. So government has to be very prudent in the way they manage these resources, with the hope that they will be influencing for the benefit of the country. And then we can. But it's very much like the welfare.
Yeah, and it's a real big mess.
Once it becomes a welfare, we don't. I mean, for the economy that we have, it's just about 3 billion. Another budget of 1.5 billion. We are in no position of being able to be sufficient and viewing the welfare side of those developments. One of the fundamental principles of economics, there is no such thing called free lunch. This once you start learning economics from high school, it is very basics. You don't expect, even if you get something for free from a friend or from the government, but when you go beyond that, the origin, then someone must have who worked so hard, whether it's through taxes or whatever, someone must have paid for that. And that's why there is no such thing called free lunch. So even if they get through, whatever benefits from government, you and I, the taxpayers pay for it. And I hope they understand that very simple economic principle.
I don't think they do. That's the concern for me, Professor. I truly don't think we've been talking about this for the last, month and a bit. It just seems that, we've been trying to, bring it up, but, and now it's getting to this result. And, just hearing you talk about the consequences, which I wish, we don't wish to go down that pathway. But, coming, also as well, this is all conjoined with, my other question here I have, there was another minister, a former minister had come out, Fualo, Harry Schuster, had mentioned some comments and said that, the same thing. He agreed. He also supports this project, Whanawhawai, when he first had looked at it. And he said as well, the constituency, the people in the constituency, the power was going to go through them, for them to kind of choose what they're going to spend the money on, what projects they can build to help the district. And now it seems like it's not going down that pathway. And this is the loopholes that the government are starting to try to push through. It is a great project when you look at it. It's a brilliant project that you've kind of brought together. But just the way it's being played, we can kind of see that there's loopholes here. Would you say that, Professor? Would you say there's loopholes that the government are trying to push through here?
Well, the worst that could come out of this is that this beautiful project, if we, put it into real terms, like what Donald Trump says, to his beautiful budget. Of course, Whanawhawai is a beautiful project. If it's done right, then FAST will be there for some time, if it's done right. If it's not, this is their grave. This is the graveyard. And the way we see things, it's now slowly being used to facilitate political, driven aspiration, which is not good. I feel because we are all part of this. And for me, as an economist, I pray and hope that this will be executed properly for betterment of the development of Samoa and our children going into the future. But if Fualo says that, I'm sure he understands what it means when we discuss this during a time when we were all in the Tautua.
Yeah. And what is it here? Professor, culture and politics. This is where
Yeah,
I said in
yeah.
my thing last week. This is where conjoined with this subject again. The Fono Whāwai, you're saying there the division between the people within the districts. It's dividing the people. There's no denying that. It is dividing the people. There was a survey that came out, and some observer had said that there was a survey that it came out to the young people are starting to think that the government is, or the prime minister. There's a lot of people saying that leaders are only looking after the rich and worried about the future of the country. So this is what the young people of Samoa, 18 to 35, they did a survey. They're saying the leaders are only looking after the rich, and they're right in a way. If that's what the consensus of Samoan young, they understand what's happening here. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand what's happening. We can clearly see there's one group of people that are benefiting, and there's majority of the people that are not benefiting. And the people in these districts that are controlling this money, they're benefiting. Those are the people who are benefiting from this district. But I just wanted to ask you, Professor, the culture, because we talked with Dr. Tulepa as well, the division with the cultural gifting and under the branches of Fa'aloalo and all this stuff. What are your thoughts on this? Is this another loophole? Because to me the Fono Whāwai is a loophole, but is this a way where the government can kind of also make extra money on the side, put money in their pocket? Professor, can you get your thoughts on that?
Well, by experience, whenever there is a dedication of a church building or any other very special infrastructure, this is the country, But if you go beyond that, why do we have? Why does the culture allow for those ta'alolo? In most cases, the revenue collected or the wealth collected from the ta'alolos would have to go into the repayment of the debt. Let's say it was on on some credits. In most cases, and then and that will also pay for the givings that go into the builder and the spouse. This is from traditional. But the way things are happening now, and also the way I saw it, although that it has been demonstrated in the way to bring up the best of the culture with good intentions, but often we ask, like some of the orators, what's the meaning of this? Because if we look at the funding was provided by Australia. I think there was some portion from the government, but the bulk, and therefore we don't really need this excessive display of the culture with respect to how much. Because I heard, I don't know whether it's true, that a portion of the financial contribution through the ta'alolo were taken direct out of the Fono Whāwai's fund.
Yeah.
Can you believe? You see, this is a kind of miscellaneous of the public funds. They weren't supposed to be meant for those cultural presentation and activities. They were meant for development projects that will not only benefit the districts, the villages, but also Samoa as a whole. But I don't know how much money that went into all the ta'alolo, but that was a money, poured into water flowing into the larger river. And then therefore it goes. So it's interesting that, and I can always come back to that larger macroeconomic model, because now the phone by now seems to be under the consumption, which is not supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be under the investment side of it. Yeah. So when you look further into the future, and for me, you know, being familiar with the responses of these variables when you've got the full data and then when you run them, it's sometimes you look at it and say, "My goodness, is this?" And then that comes back to the responsibility of our leaders, the Prime Minister and his cabinet, and also the government, who is at the stewardship of Samoa's ship for the moment. But this cannot go on. This cannot. Like I said earlier, it's a good project if it's done properly. If you know, we still have a long way to go, but at least with what has been happening, I think that should really give us some good forewarnings of what is to be expected if these public funds are not managed accordingly.
Well said. Very well said. Just last part on this subject, Professor. I've also mentioned the division between our people in Samoa and also outside of Samoa. It's a real thing. It's seen online. A lot of people, saying things to other people. It's a big problem that we're facing at the moment. And it comes back down to this, and to my opinion, the gang mentality when it comes to the red and the blue. Now, I've said it, I've mentioned it a few times now, it's the colours that have been said, like, when a leader comes out, it's usually in red, it's almost like your gang colour, you always have to wear something in red. But I always think to myself, if you're the Prime Minister, you're Prime Minister of Samoa, you're not Prime Minister of just for your fast supporters. And that is what a lot of people can see what's happening right now. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet and the government, all of them, they're all part of this. Whether you might not agree with Lauli's call, if you sit there and still, are just sitting there and receiving, and you're part of the problem. I just don't understand. And if you wear the red, and also you can see when the 405I districts that come and support, they all come in red, they all do the Silver Samoan red. Everything is a sea of red. You will probably think it's the Matematonga's rugby league team, the way that the fast have kind of come out. It's just all red. And I'm like, that right there goes to signify to us, our Prime Minister just wants to stand for the people who are in the red. And what are your thoughts on that, Professor? Do you think this is a gang mentality which is the cause of division? Because I'm for Samoa, and we're not here to bring up the blue. This is just to bring up Samoa. And what are your thoughts on this Red Nation gang?
A good and unbiased leader should know what is to be expected of him. We know that he's a red, supporter, but he should also realize that there is thousands of people who are also supporting, other parties such as HRPP and independence. So, you make sure you play your cards well. When you play poker, and then you hold the ace, the final card to your heart until you play that. But the way we see things, he's now playing his best card, which is he is supposed to be the Prime Minister for all. For me, although that our programs and whatever we say, even under the third tour, I support him as the Prime Minister. But when things don't go as expected as we know, then I will not support him. And that is something that we really have to be aware of. But whatever has been happening lately, I always believe that there is a reason why they do happen. And for a God-fearing nation like Samoa, things will smooth out. And if they don't listen, then we know the end. We know the end. Like what happened to Fiamē and her cabinet too. You see, so you have to learn from the past and make sure that you stand on today because of yesterday. You revise your expectations of yesterday and then hold your head high as you move forward. And then God will open up opportunities. We all pray for the government, regardless of our differences, but we pray. That Laudi and Laudi Macho and his cabinet, get the right wisdom to steer our ship. And we should also pray for Dr. Tulepa's health and his party to provide a good rebuttal of the government's policies. That's not local anger. That's what you're doing your job. You're doing our job. And make sure that, hey, look, just come to the middle of the road. Don't go go offside. Sooner or later you're gonna fall off the road. But politics, it's good. It's interesting. Since we're on that topic, as I read through Socrates. Socrates, one of the famous philosophers, and Plato, one of his famous students. And Socrates was executed by the politicians of Athens at the time, and because he was teaching about his students and everyone about the ability, do not be scared of questioning, questioning the superiors, about this and this, and he was very true. And so the politicians at the time, the Athens, in Greece, they didn't like the teachings, and so they executed him. So when Plato came around, he took on the mantle, and look, that's very true. The whole of the democracy. We encourage, we go to school, we go to get education, and I always encourage my students to be you have to be a critical thinker. You question. Don't believe everything you hear and everything you see. Just question. And if we look at the Fonfavai and whatever government policies, we can question. There's nothing wrong with that. Because out of that inquisitive mind, it will give a good rebuttal to the government, and then therefore the government will come up with better strategies to make sure that all of us will be accommodated into a better future. That's very simple. But if you turn around and look into different ways to prosecute, that's not the way it should be. We're living in 2026. We have come a long way. Christ is very true. Christ, before he died, taught us all of this.
Yeah, well said, Professor. A lot of it's got to do with diaspora, and I was looking at it. We all know the tourism, remittances, money coming from the diaspora, are the main money incomes for our country. And so obviously, with our diaspora having a big say, there's a lot of suppression through the journeys that these diaspora have gone through. And, I can see it. I can see that they want, the best for Samoa. But I just can't stress enough that, they're being brainwashed, in my opinion, again, not your opinion, Professor, but they're just being brainwashed. And now people are just all speaking up and, saying their stuff online. And, for me, the quiet majority, I believe majority of Samoa know that what's happening in Samoa is wrong. I believe that. Just like how Donald Trump, even though a lot of people are saying, the other side are, stronger and stronger. But I believe when Donald Trump won the last election, the quiet majority came up and turned up. And, they
Yeah.
could see that right now, I believe. But I feel sorry for our country at the moment. I really do. And I hope that, I prayed for the Prime Minister that he opens. We've been saying it. I hope you can listen to your. I don't think he listens at all. I think I've got no understanding of, not trying to insult him or anything. I don't understand what his vision or where he's trying to move towards, and that's the scary part that I'm looking from from outside in, Professor. But yeah, that's the last part of that subject that we've got to touch on.
No, we can only hope for the best.
Yeah.
I always believe in that, given that Samoa is founded on God. So whatever differences that we have to accept the differences in opinions, which will culminate into something much better. But if you hold on very dearly to the persecution and then that negativity, that's not the way forward.
Yeah.
Because being in the government, you're not there forever. You're not there forever.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, it's the saying is that it's yours today and mine tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we know that. So when you come into the fore, for that matter, then you make sure that you do the very best. Once you leave, you left everything intact. But if you leave while everything was in chaos, then you should know that there is an aftermath of that. This is history. We look into other countries and other governments who squander the wealth and so on. So when they left or even defeated through elections or whatever, the law went after them. And that's history. And I don't want that to happen to some. We are a very peaceful country. We accept the differences of opinions. We are brothers and sisters, saying the fathers and mothers. But let's not allow the differences of opinions to demarcate who we are. We are one. We are Samoans, So we pray for Laonis government as well, and also to that, and also Pine and the SUP. Yep.
Thank you, Professor. I think that's last thing. I'll leave you the last words to end the show. But thank you for your time. Thank you for the knowledge and experience that you share with us. That people really enjoy that. The perspectives of Samoans who are living in Samoa. Not only that, your expertise and your knowledge. Thank you so much for that. Any last words before we finish, Professor?
No, it's just that, I was just meditating on today's reading, the scripture reading. And it's taken out of Philippians 4, verses 11 to 13. And the culmination of that is that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that is a very powerful testament from St. Paul. He went through hell. He got all the blessings and everything. But out of all those good and bad, it was through Christ that really anchored him to the faith and finally, made him a triumph, even though that he was persecuted to the death. So whatever is happening in our country, for me, this is just part of the political underpinning that we are going through. But eventually, we are one. We are one. I'll say this from the bottom of my heart, because I am responsible for teaching, economics and finance in the final year students, economics, BCom, and also postgraduate studies in this area. So all of these students, they come and they serve. So whether you support FAST, whether you support HRVP, or even to another parties as well, the SUP, we are one. We do our responsibility to make sure that when time comes for us to go, we leave everything behind in good state. And therefore, God would be very pleased with that, because what are you going to say when you go and you leave everything in shambles?
Yeah.
They're gonna charge you for that. But let's pray for Rauli Marito and his cabinet, and also the health of Tulepa and his opposition as well, TMA, and as well, and we move forward. There's fish. There's someone saying that you can catch fish beyond. You don't catch fish behind you. There's you see beyond number 4. Number 4 is in the front, and that is where everybody should be. And I also we should also pray for the church as well.
Yeah.
The Christian faith in Samoa and the whole world, to uphold the true relationship that we have in the blood of Jesus Christ. Yeah. On that note, Malo Mike, God bless you and your family as well, and also those who have been listening to our discourses. Sa manuele tua I nautapo'o Samoa. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. We'll see you next week. Have a good week.
Yeah.
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 Thank you, guys. Just finished our conversation with Professor Dr. Wood Salele. Again, props to him and his time that he's given for us. Just recapping on that conversation, and it's good to kind of get the perspective from Samoan in Samoa, or what's happening in Samoa, and just to kind of go through our conversation we had there. As I said, the government, there's a deficit of $35 million that has been come back and said that they went over $35 million through the quarter. That's what the big news is happening in Samoa. And coming back to what is happening in Samoa, that is the big news that a lot of Samoans are starting to kind of look at and see that there's money problems that is coming from the government. Big money problems that are coming from the government. And the Prime Minister, obviously the man of the moment that everyone's looking at and asking questions. What's happening? And we've mentioned many, many times to the Prime Minister, also to the cabinet members, to do their job properly and to do it with honesty and do it with love for the country. And, their lack of transparency, their lack of telling the country what's happening, what's the plan, what we're trying to move towards. It seems like the only time that these types of talks of the vision comes out is when they're about to vote or go to the polls. That's when all these promises start to come out, in the country, and with these politicians, the Prime Minister Lauli. A lot of promises, but it just seems to be going to deaf ears. And you can clearly see that with this new story coming out about the $35 million that have gone over the budget. I was really shocked to see here the grants, the 12.4 million. So I did a short video about the differences between the leader of Tulepa and when he was in time, and it got up pretty high. But they're saying here the figures here has dropped from 43 million. So this is the amount of money that come into the country that are coming from grants. So from other countries that are giving us money to Samoa, 43 million has dropped down to 12.4 million. If those figures are right, man, that is so disgraceful from the government. It's like it just goes to show the experience and knowledge of these guys. It's just shameful to wear that. It's very shameful to wear that, to kind of wear this $12.4 million, not being able to kind of up the grants or not being able to kind of bring new investments, new projects, new developments. This is embarrassing for the FAST government. And the $5 million that they put into the independence, $5 million, and when the last, when HLPP were in 250,000, 300,000, I mean, it doesn't compare. $5 million for what? $5 million to go and do what? Like, what do we get back from that $5 million? It's just a great time, you know. Yes, Independence Day was there's a lot of great feedback in Samoa. There's a buzz in Samoa. There's nothing wrong with the buzz. I love the buzz. Everyone loves the buzz. But it shouldn't cost $5 million for us to be able to create the buzz. I'm sure we can get a cheaper version of creating a buzz in Samoa. And it doesn't come back down to, it comes back to the leader of the country and its government and the cabinet members. You know, you guys, it's a shame that you guys sit there all in your red uniform, all happy and joyful and all that stuff. But when you come out with numbers like this, it's really embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. Especially for our country, it's really embarrassing. And to the FAST people who are the bullies behind this group, behind this gang. Because to me, FAST is just a gang, you know, and the way that they push themselves out, it's just a gang. The reason why I say it's a gang, it's because you guys are just, a group of people that just believe in Lauli, the Prime Minister, and you guys just believe him for whatever he says goes, and everything he walks on is gold. That's the perspective that you guys hold him in account to. Right? And fair enough, you guys all want to support him because you guys are supporters of him. We also support him because he's the Prime Minister of Samoa. But you guys support him in a complete different way. You guys support him in a way where it's like, yeah, as he walks, everywhere he walks like, and gold is going to be coming on the bottom of his feet everywhere he walks. It's just like, it's another level. And I'm thinking, man, this is like it's like a cult. This FAST gang or this FAST party, it's no different to a cult. You guys are just absolutely brainwashed by whatever is said against the Prime Minister. If it's like, if it's feedback to kind of say, hey, Prime Minister, there's something happening over here. It's not good for the country. Hey, there's something over here. You know, all these guys jump on their high horses and say, don't talk to Lauli. Don't say this about him. Who are you next to Lauli? Man, I'm like, wow, look at all the minions, the cult members that are all coming online and they start to kind of say rude things to other Samoans. Because who are you to say that? And then you know what the worst thing is? It's not, that's the ugly language. And then they say other stuff that you will never ever hear in life. You know, this language is just like, I used to always say it's like bush, it's like outback language. It's just like I don't know if they say the fasa. It's like you're just arrogant. These people, they're just Karens, what we call it in the Western society. These guys are Karens. They're people that just don't want to hear anything else. They just want to hear, no one's great. Lauli is the greatest of them all. No one, the FAST, they love the country. What did he do for the country? Look what he's doing for the people, giving the money to the people. You know, this is what the Karens, the fast people, they say. Who are you next to the Laoli? Le Maliatoa, who are you? There's no one next to him. You know, and you know, and then they start to kind of bring in the, you're local leanga, you're this and you're that. You're just angry because of your parents and all this stuff. So they try and get personal and all these little comments to try and you know, nitpick and try and like kind of it's bullying. It's just straight bullying, right? And then I'm like, wow, look at this gang. And I'm like, okay, who's the leader of this gang? Who's the leader of this group, this cult? It's Laoli. You see, Laoli, this is where, like, you know, to kind of having to, it's what we call criticize. It's constructive criticism. So this is the constructive criticism that I'm giving to Laoli, is that as the fast leader and a fast government leader, he's, you know, obviously now the Prime Minister of all of Samoa, but you're the fast leader for all your members that are wearing the red and the red side and all the colours for the red. All your people are being so rude and bullying other people of Samoa, and you as the leader of the country and the leader of your party, which you have named after, and you mention God in the name of your party. So God is mentioned in the name of your party, and then you got all your followers, not all your followers, but you got many of your followers that are being rude, that are saying stuff that are just inappropriate to anyone. Like, we're talking about disgusting rude. We're talking about things that you will never say to anyone in real life. We're talking about, it's disgusting. Like, you don't mention it. And then, yet, a lot of the fast, the gang of the fast, red, they wear it. They wear it. And also, a lot of them go behind fake pages and they wear it. They wear this badge of, like, fasa, this vastiness, this arrogance, this bullying mentality. So, you know, and we can see that's happening. We can clearly see that's what's happening in the Samoan communities that are happening online. We all see it. So the leader of the fast, who named his party after God, who put God in his name, he put God in the political realm, he put God in their name. So he pretty much puts God to face it to the people and say, God is with us. And then he comes and then literally all the supporters, not all the supporters, many of the supporters are coming in and bullying and trolling and saying words that are just so un-Christian-like. Un-Christian-like. Yet you guys got God in your party. And that's the thing that trips my mind up. Biggest hypocrites. The biggest hypocrites. Don't touch Laoli Le Maliatoa. You're not nothing next to him. Sorry, my constructive criticism is, and I always say it, Laoli is the same as every other Samoan. He's no one special. And I don't understand how these people think that this man is any more different to anyone else. Like, just like, you know, people might think that, say, oh, you do that for Tulepa. Tulepa is the opposition leader of the country. You got Asiata, you got all the Radio Samoa, you got these platforms in America, many platforms that are all pushing the narrative of whatever Laoli says goes, and they're finding the good light to kind of put Laoli in. So then I'm coming in, and I'm coming to help the opposition leader to say his story. And then you got all these gang mentality fast members coming to try and say all this profanity and all this negative words in the name of their God that they put underneath the banner of themselves. Biggest hypocrites. And then some of them, they don't have any shame. No shame at all. But never, I always think, they never say in real life, but always online. But to come now, to see now what's happening in Samoa, the 35 million over for the quarter, you know, I don't, you know, like I'm starting to kind of like, okay, to kind of shush up all these people that are such supporters of the fast. You know, I'm starting to kind of feel like, well, you know, I'm kind of like, let's get it happen. Let's get this thing happening. Let it fall sooner than later. And these guys are just thinking, sitting here, nah, everything's all good. Everything's all good. Doesn't look like it. It seriously doesn't look like it. And there's a lot of explaining that the government has to do. There's a lot of people that are not happy. The $10 million in Safata, the millions of dollars that are in the compensation for the power outage, they're still waiting for their money. $18 million waiting for the school funding. The millions that are waiting for the debt, 12 million in debt for medicines. Samoa is in big trouble financially. You know, Professor he doesn't want to go hard out on it. Mate, it's bad. It's really bad. You know, 43 million that we usually get from grants down to 12.4 million. It's embarrassing, man. It's real embarrassing. And to say 300,000 that's usually spent on Independence Day to when the fast came and made a mad-ass party for $5 million. Yet, according to the fast Samoan people, all they're worrying about is like, no, it looks good, everything looks good online, everything looks good on camera. And you know what's going to be crazy? I just got to see all the people, because, you know, a lot of Samoans. But, you know, obviously the bullies will probably most likely stick around because they're fussers, they're so mixed up in the head. But when Lauli falls and this gets worse because he doesn't want to listen to anyone else, when it falls, you see all the people hide. You will never see a fast people come out proud fast because it's such an embarrassment. It'd be such a big embarrassment to kind of see like, oh, your fast just absolutely destroyed the economy of Samoa. Destroyed the economy of Samoa. Even though so many people were trying to share and say, hey, don't do that. And you guys told them to shut up. And now look at you guys. Biggest embarrassment for Samoan history. The loudest, the most proudest people, you know, these are the ones the most loudest and proudest. When it officially falls, when the government falls or they are voted out because the budget has failed, biggest people to hide. Because you don't want to put your name next to that. It's the biggest embarrassment. So, yep, that's my little rant that I had for today. Tomorrow we have another discussion with the Honourable Dr. Tulepa, who is the opposition leader, because everyone's saying, man, you guys are opposition leader. You know the opposition leader's job? The opposition leader's job is to constructively give feedback to the government to make sure that they are, hey, you're not doing the right thing. Hey, that's their job. So all you people trying to say loko leanga, no, your prime minister, your leader is loko leanga. Why? Because instead of him saying, holding you guys back from saying such rude things, instead of you guys, instead of him coming and say, hey, you guys, we're all Samoans at the end of the day. Instead of him doing that, he just lets it go. He lets it go and it just lets the whole, the fast, God being inside their fast party name. Hypocrite. It's the biggest hypocrite. And it's like, well, your leader's not even holding back the negativities that they are putting forward. And then he comes out to try and plays victim to other things that are happening with the division of what's happening in Samoa. You know it's you, the leader. Your word, like if we could see that you're trying to make an effort, or Lauli, like if you're trying to make an effort to kind of help Samoa to calm down the peace of people from your party, to say, stop doing that. and literally saying it like, stop doing that because HRPP, like we don't see that. We see nothing of your heart to kind of like say, hey, we're all Samoans. We never see that. There's no side of you that comes out like that. So that's the thing that's like concerning. I'm like, man, where's your vision for the people? Like Tule Epa's doing a great job. He's an opposition leader. He has to do what he needs to do. It's criticize the government. That's his job. But now you're the head of the country, and then Tule Epa's doing his job. You're not doing your job. You're not making the peace for Samoa. You're not giving the vision for Samoa. You're not helping Samoa what's going to happen next, guys. You're pretty much doing what the opposition, you're criticizing back to Tule Epa, but the thing is, Tule Epa is not the Prime Minister. You're the Prime Minister, Lauli. That's the confusing thing. You're playing opposition leader to your own, to Tule Epa, but Tule Epa is not the Prime Minister. So now we can see the government starting to fall. It's falling on your head. It's falling on the government, and that's why, and that's including the cabinet and all the ministers that are involved. You guys sit there and don't talk up. So that's why, many years that's gone past. Like HRPP have already defeated, they've already been defeated. They're not trying to take down the government. There's none of that. They've already lost. They already know they're lost. So as a leader, as an opposition group, their job is to make sure that the government is doing their job right. But then you see a lot of the people from the HRPP side, they, instead of trying to obtain to make sure that they're doing the job right, they just want to join in to whatever the FAST are doing, whatever they're getting the benefits of, the whanawha vai and these type of jobs that they're getting with extra money. That's why they want to swap over. So they want to play opposition. They want to be what the government is benefiting from it. But now you can see the numbers are not adding up now. So what's happened now is that because of the $35 million that they went over the budget or deficit, that went over spending, so they're pretty much, where's the 35 million in debt? Like where's the 35 million going to come from? So that's when the government went and asked to the four banks in Samoa and asked, hey, can we build up a system, $300,000 buffer, so the whanawha vai district banks, if they are over the limit of the 1.8 million or the 1 million that they got, can we go with the overdraft, 300,000? Then they'll pay them back. This is what they were trying to push together, put forward to the four banks. Can you help us out? And the four banks turned around and rejected it. Of course they rejected it. They're looking at the government like, mate, you guys have no understanding how to pay back anything. You guys just spent a $5 million, you just put $5 million towards the Independence Party. Like you don't show any figures to say where's the money coming back. You got the Safata $10 million that you guys haven't spent. You haven't given to the people. You said you'd be promising to give it to them since last year, October, and it hasn't come. Now you guys are asking for their bank accounts again. So the banks are looking at the government like, why should we give you the loans? Like, why should we set this up? And if I'm the banks, I'm like, no way I'm going to give it to the government. No way. Because I know you guys you're not good for it. And I get this, guess who the people that usually come in to help? Guess who the one that usually is the perfect for this scenario right now? The great friend, the IMF. Remember, just a few weeks ago? IMF, the big guys that are coming in and say, oh, don't come over here and flex your muscles. Who remembers that? Remember when the Prime Minister had turned around because he was trying to change some policies within the central bank, and then the IMF sent a letter and they said to the government to say, hey, we know, we can see what you're doing. We just want to kind of give you some warning, like, can you not do that? Because it's affecting them. to making sure that Samoa is run fairly, to make sure everything runs fairly and no one can kind of scam Samoan government. Right? This is why all the policies and all the rules are put in place. So the big boss IMF, or not the big boss, the big bank IMF, the World Bank, comes over, writes a letter to the government of Samoa and says, hey, guys, be careful what you guys are doing because you're opening it up for potential money laundering, scamming, right? And what did the Prime Minister of Samoa say to them, to this IMF, to them? What did he say to them? Don't flex your muscles here. See, this is the lack of vision, the lack of leadership, the lack of understanding as a leader of the country who doesn't understand how to lead in politics. This is politics. This is the politic game. And so, Lauli, you've done a great job bringing the Samoan people, and you've come in with culture, and you've come and literally brainwashed everyone to say, I'm going to come and help Samoa. To find out your political knowledge is nothing. Nothing. No vision, no experience, no study background. You know, and it's, look, guys, this has got nothing against Lauli. Just try and put him down to say because he doesn't have a study. I'm not about, you know, about you have to go to school and you've got to have a certificate and all that stuff. But he doesn't. He doesn't have those certificates behind him, and he's already admitted that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm trying to say is, you're the leader of the country, and at the moment, whatever you're saying goes because you're the head of the country. And so if you're saying to the IMF, hey, don't flex your muscles, you're promising everyone in the country, don't worry, your money's going to be coming. 10 million, yep, don't worry, it's going to come. Yeah, 18 million, yep, don't worry, it's going to come. Right? Then you say 5 million, take it to the party over there. You know, this goes to show the lack of understanding of politics of Lauli, the Prime Minister of Samoa. You don't understand politics, mate. You don't understand politics. You've just come with your business ideas of what you know, and then you've conjoined it with Samoan culture. You've brainwashed everyone and said, I'm going to come into power and I'm going to give you the money, which you've done. But this is the system that Tulepa has said. Money doesn't grow on trees. The money doesn't just fall out of thin air. And Lauli's sitting there like, yeah, no, everything's all good. IMF, don't flex your muscles over here. You see, that's the lack of leadership that I'm calling out. Bad politics. Very bad politics. So then Lauli will go, and in the future, he's making damage right now because you can see $35 million over the budget, over this quarter. And still things to be paid for in Samoa. And we're giving warnings and say, hey guys, there's many things that we need to kind of do what the other countries are doing. We need a petrol plan. We need to look at like how we're going to make sure we conserve petrol. Nah, everything's okay. We got enough petrol. You see, and all the minions are like, all the fasts are like, yeah, no, everything's okay. $35 million. Everything's not okay. And so don't say here, like, we're loko leanga, we're trying to pull down the government. Nah. We're trying to help the government. Tulepa's trying to help the government and say, hey, this is what's wrong. But because you're so politically, because your politics is so weak, you think politics is just wearing a red shirt, telling everyone to wear red, and getting all your friends to come and help you, support you and all that stuff. You think that's what politics is? You have no idea, mate. There's 2 Samoans stuck in Vietnam. Can you do anything to help them to come over? Where's your politics? Where's your political leadership? That's what I'm trying to ask. Where is that, Lauli? All the promises in the world, but no delivery. That's what we call a scam artists. That's scam. And all you brainwashed fast supporters coming here in the name of fast, in the name of God, coming here and swearing to all your Samoans. How bad is that? And you sit there, don't even say anything. And everyone has to sit there and in this independence thing and think this everything's okay. Mate, it's an outcry. It's wrong. It's wrong. You know, I had to listen to some of the stuff on Independence Day, to Archbishop Moses. What a good man, such a strong and honest man. And even he said it. You know, he uses his talent of speaking and during his speech as the celebrant of the Independence Day, saying, stop lying. Stop lying. People online, stop lying. You know, and trying to be peaceful as he can, as much as he can, because he doesn't want to say it as it is. But mate, it's bad in Samoa. It's really bad in Samoa how it is. The leaders can't even speak up. It's just like, what's going to happen now? So it's good that I explain this and share it so people can be aware, not just act like shocked when everything falls down, like, oh, what? No way. Can't believe it. No way. What happened to the fast? Don't act shocked, mate. We've been saying it for weeks, for months. And we've been trying to warn the government. Can you calm down your minions? Can you calm down with your spending? Can you stop breaking the promises? We've been saying it over and everyone's, lokleanga. You guys are just being bad-hearted towards these people. You guys are bad-hearted to Laoli. No, we're not. It's because we care and we love Samoa so much that whether Laoli, it could be Tulepa that in the hot seat there. Same thing, same process. You know, so it's a shame to see our people who are these people who are online, who feel like in the name of God, in the name of fast, that's your fast party, that's got God in it. You guys think that it's okay for you to swear at your other Samoans, your fellow Samoans. You think it's okay for you to say such rude stuff to each other, to other Samoans. Oh man. Then you guys all go to church and say, praise the Lord. Just like what Moses said in his speech. Praise the Lord. Stop lying, guys. To the fast people, you're brainwashed, but hopefully one day you can see, and I'll pray for that. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, and we thank you for everything and that you have blessed us with. We ask that you bless Samoa and all Samoans around the world that are listening in. Also, any Samoans and people that are struggling financially, mentally, emotionally, may you lift them up to higher realms, God. And also, we pray for the Prime Minister, that you might give him wisdom to help him along this journey that we are going through at the moment, that they may find a way to get out of this, that we can all come together as one Samoa. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
You are my You are my God, my hiding place, my safe refuge, my treasure, Lord. You are my friend and King, anointed one, most holy. Because you're with me, because you're with me, because you're